Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here to bring the 13-game NBA main slate on Wednesday. Before you get in the video, if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. My name is DK. I make daily videos and live stream for NBA and NFL slates on Draftkings. Apologize for not uploading the last couple days. I've been traveling, but back home and ready to grind some DFS. If you guys are unable to watch these YouTube videos, I also upload on Apple Podcasts. Link down below is called the DKDFS Show. And if you're interested in signing up for premium content, now is a good time. I offer a few different packages on patreon.com, NFL, NBA, and esports package. And I want to thank the sponsor of the video, Prize Picks. So Prize Picks, there's a few different ways you can play. It's a player prop site where you're taking over-under on either fantasy points or over-under on single stats, so like over-under on like straight-up points, rebounds, assists. So right now they have actually some fourth quarter contests. They'll have the board up for tomorrow, probably in an hour or so. Be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I like it, guys. It's a nice change of pace. You're not playing against anyone, just playing against the house. So if you guys want to try it out, sign up, use my code DKDFS. It's DKDFS, all one word. You'll get a 100% match up to $100. All right. And make sure, if you guys do enjoy all the content, to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I will be doing a YouTube live stream tomorrow, so make sure to check that one out. All right, so before we talk about the 13 games, let's look back my lineup here from tonight. So tonight, looking really good. I am very tilted about one thing, but we'll get to that. So my lineup of Shake Milton, Herter, Korkmaz, Portis, Drummond, CJ McCollum, Antetokounmpo, and Bledsoe. The reason I'm so tilted is Doc Rivers is one of the worst coaches ever. Like, I cannot stand coaches that just straight up lie. Straight up lie. This is in the article last night for the 76ers. Tomorrow, we're going to play 10 guys, Rivers said. We have to. I don't know who that 10 is, but 10 guys have to play tomorrow. We've got to get our guys to the end of the game so they're a little fresher. You want to know what Doc Rivers did? Basically ran a 7-man rotation. He ran a 7-man rotation, guys. A 7-man rotation. So, had I known that, had I known the rotation was to be similar, I would have played way more than 3 guys from the 76ers. I would have played at least 4. But no, Doc Rivers straight up lies. I believe him, and he goes back to 7-man rotation. Like, why lie, dude? Why are you lying, bro? Like, you're just a loser, Doc Rivers. And absolutely, like, I cannot stand coaches that straight up lie. Like Coach Budenholzer, Coach Doc Rivers. Overrated coaches. But yeah, McCollum, chalk, no surprise there. 76ers guys still were popular. And then, yeah, I have McCollum and Bledsoe going to the late game right now. So that is it for the look back, guys. Hope you had a good night. And, going over ownership, this is in the Thunderdome. Again, a lot of ownership on the Philly guys. Korkmaz shot 2 of like 20. Like, are you serious in 45 minutes? If he's had a decent shooting game, it could have been a massive night for me. Again, Herter, pretty low owned. I was really hammering that home on Patreon, how if both Bogdanovich and Hunter out, I wanted at least one. Herter is my favorite. Absolutely smashed a low ownership key tonight for a big night. And, yeah, that is really it. So let's talk about this 13-game slate. We'll start off on the Washington side. Not a ton of interest here. I think Beal's a fine contrarian bet, but a lot of guys are priced up on the slate. Gafford is playable, 4.7K. He'll play low 20s minutes if he can stay out of foul trouble, but that's about it. So there's not a ton of love on the Washington side. The Cleveland side, a little bit more to like. We'll start with Ricky Rubio, only 5.2K, no Colin Sexton. Expect him to start. If he does start, he's one of the best plays of the slate at that price point. The 2 bigs in Allen and Mobley have been playing massive minutes without Markkanen and Kevin Love. So both guys definitely even play in a good matchup here. Probably lean to Allen for me, but it's close. And then Darius Garland, I think, is fine too. I don't know if he gets a massive usage bump without Sexton, but he is definitely in play. Should play mid-30s minutes. And like one of these value plays probably gets there with like a Okoro as Chetty Osman and Dean Wade. But I don't know if I want to mess with that on a 13-game slate. Moving on to Brooklyn, Orlando. Not a ton here for Brooklyn. Durant and Harden both fine contrarian spend-ups. However, I'm worried about the blowout against an awful Magic team. The bench, I just don't trust this rotation, so I'm going to pass there. Moving on to Orlando. Cole Anthony, I think, is a pretty good contrarian play in the upper mid-range. He's played really well. He does have 50-plus fantasy point upside, and I'm not really scared of Brooklyn on the defensive end. Wendell Carter Jr., he played really well last game in a tough matchup, and rebounding the ball really well. 7K now feels priced about right, though, for him. And then I'll mention Jalen Suggs at 4-4. The price is going down on him, but his production has also been going down. So if you want to try to buy low on the rookie, I don't hate it. Toronto and Boston. Siakam on a minutes limit, I'll pass. He's going to sit out the back-to-back. OG at almost 8K feels about right. I think Fred VanVleet, probably my favorite player, only 7.6K. Should play around 40 minutes, a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. Let's see. Scotty Barnes at almost 7K. I don't really want to mess with that with potential foul trouble. And there's not a ton else here for Toronto. They run a pretty tight rotation. Moving on to Boston. So still no Jalen Brown. I'm fine getting to Tatum even at above 10K. He's going to play close to 40 minutes and get a ton of shot attempts up. So no issue if you want to go there. Horford at almost 8K. Feels too pricey. I do like Dennis Schroeder at 6-1. He played 39 minutes last game, and he's going to start until Jalen Brown comes back. So, I'm fine going to Schroeder. He should be the number 2 there on offense. And then Marcus Smart's fine. He'll play 30 minutes and probably get you 20 to 25 fancy points. I'll mention Josh Richardson at 3-4, played 31 minutes last game. Minutes have been all over the place for him, but he's super, super cheap, so I think he's at least in play. Detroit and Houston, not a ton here I love. Grant Bay, secondary options. Kelly Olynyk viable for tournaments. He's a good point per minute guy, but the minutes a little bit up and down. Cade Cunningham at 5-2 still feels a little bit too cheap. I think he plays 30 to 32 minutes in a competitive game. A guy that can stuff a stat sheet. Now, he's not been shooting the ball well, so what happens when he does have a good shooting game? He can go for 40 plus probably. So still some interesting Cade Cunningham. And then Killian Hayes, I think, is viable as well. He's been awful, but he's only 4K and probably plays mid-20s minutes. On the Houston side, so we've got news before that last game they were going to extend the bench and play a lot more of the young guys. So we'll see. I want to get some clarity if that was just a one-time thing or if they're going to continue to do that. Because if they're going to continue to do that, then I don't have a ton of interest in Houston. But we'll start with Kevin Porter Jr., who's questionable. If he can't go, I'm interested to see who they start. Is it Augustine? Is it Armani Brooks? A potential value there. And then if Kevin Porter Jr. is out, probably boost to Jalen Green at 5-3. But he's been very, very reliant on the scoring. I still also mentioned Jayshawn Tate. I think you can say out of foul trouble, he plays over 30 minutes. Good rebounder, really good defender. So I do still also mention Jayshawn Tate. And then that's probably it. Again, monitor the starting lineup if Kevin Porter Jr. can't go. Milwaukee and New York. So tough matchup here for the Bucks, back-to-back. Almost over 12K for Giannis, not out of play, but it's hard for me to feel great about that. Drew Holiday, I think, feels priced about right. Should play 30 to 32 minutes. Can stuff the stat sheet. So I think he's a relatively safe play. Bobby Portis still feels a little bit too cheap. Should start and play around 30 minutes if he can stay out of foul trouble. So like Bobby Portis once again at that price. Grayson Allen had a really good shooting game tonight, but he's super reliant on scoring. I'll let others chase that in a 13 game. Slate, moving on to the Knicks. Randall at 10-3. Again, a lot of the stars got priced up. So I don't love that price. Barrett 6-4, no thank you. Kemba versus Derrick Rose. One of those guys will have a good game, but I'm not trying to mess with it at a 13 gamer. Robinson and Noel are both questionable. If they both can't go, then Taj Gibson becomes one of the better value plays in the slate. Played 31 minutes last game, so keep an eye on that. Dallas and Chicago. On the Dallas side, Luka has really been bad this year. He's still playing mid-30s minutes. Production has been way down, though. It's hard for me to feel really good about it, but he's playable. Porzingis at 6'8", you're never going to feel good playing this guy. Got in foul trouble last game. Keep an eye if there's a minutes limit. There's no limit. I think he probably plays 32 to 34 minutes. And sub 7K, it's viable, but God, that guy's such a headache to roster. And then Jalen Brunson. He's been their clear, number 3 guy here. He's playing over 30 minutes. I think he's still a pretty safe play. A guy that has handled the ball a decent amount and taken away some from Luka's usage. Moving on to Chicago. So when the team's fully healthy, it's hard to feel really good about anyone, but the player that stands out for his price is Zach LaVine. 7.6 is just a little bit too cheap. He's been 9K, mid-8K range, and now he's down to 7.6 for some reason. So, there's still a floor because, this team's a little more balanced now. It's not just Zach LaVine as their go-to guy. They have DeRozan, they have Vooch Lonzo, obviously, but that does feel a little bit too cheap for LaVine. Vooch at 8.8 feels about right. DeRozan at 8.6 has probably been their best player this year. So DeRozan and LaVine are the 2 guys to look to. And then Caruso's viable value. He'll play 25 to 30 minutes off the bench. I don't think I want to mess with the Io, Derrick Jones Jr., Javonte Green combo. One of those guys might have a decent game. Again, though, 13-game slate. Probably not something I want to mess with. Charlotte and Memphis, again, they got the price bumped. LaMelo Ball now at 10K. Feels a little bit too pricey for me. Miles Bridges. So, guys, I finally played Miles Bridges last slate. And sure enough, awful shooting, bust. 6 of 18. Are you actually kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? I knew, God, it's just so frustrating. So this game is going to go for 50, so lock in Miles Bridges. Hayward and Rozier both have upside, but have a little bit of a lower floor, more tournament plays. Without PJ Washington, Plumlee's been playing more. He played 35 minutes last game. I think he plays around 30 in a competitive game here. So I think he's an interesting play that probably was a little bit overlooked. And then if you want to roll the dice in Oubre or Cody Martin in tournaments, you can, but not something you're going to feel great about. Moving on to Memphis, Ja Morant, sub 10K. Still think viable. I think he plays 35-ish minutes. This is a really good matchup, and these guys can stuff the stat sheet. So I think that price scares some people off, but I'm still fine going there in tournaments. Triple J, always viable for tournaments that, again, very prone to foul trouble. Melton, Bane, I think are both pretty safe plays at their respective prices. I think both play around 30 minutes in a close one. Steven Adams let me down in a massive way last game, only played 19 minutes. I was shocked that they won small against a big Minnesota team. So, Adams is going to go for like 40 tomorrow and really tilt me. Slow-mo's playable, but he might be a little bit over-owned after last game. All right, Thunder and Pelicans. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at almost 9K. Again, like I said, they priced up a lot of these guys. So, just feels about right. He does have a floor because always blowout risk with Thunder, but these are two of the worst teams in the NBA playing against each other, so you would think it stays competitive. Giddey at 6'5", that feels about right too. Baisley 4.8K, viable for tournaments, but the minutes are up and down. And I'll mention Favors at only 3.4K. He's played big minutes against big front courts. This is a big front court against Jonas Valanciunas, so is there a chance he plays over 20 minutes? Yeah. So a little bit of interest there in Favors, but again, this rotation is just such a headache. Moving on to the Pelicans. Ingram, Herbert Jones, both still questionable. Start Jonas Valanciunas at now over 9K. Still fine paying this price point for him. Like the matchup a good amount. Should play around 35 minutes. So no interest going right back to JV, or no issue going right back to JV. Ingram, if he plays, I think it's a solid spend up if he misses. If him and Herbert Jones both miss, and yes, we consider Garrett Temple, who's been playing big minutes and would be a decent value play. The guards in Ingram and NAW are just more tournament options. Sacramento and the Spurs. So Harrison Barnes continues to just get you 35 to 40 fancy points. I think he's a pretty safe play. I know when I finally buy into him, though, he'll go for 20 fancy points. De'Aaron Fox at 8-2, taking a step back usage-wise. Keep an eye on Halliburton news. If Halliburton can't go, a little bit of boost to Fox there would look a little bit better, but he's struggled. Holmes, don't love the price there. Hield started for Halliburton last game. He played 30 minutes. He would be a fine play, but again, kind of reliant on the scoring. And then Davion Mitchell probably gets the biggest bump if there's no Halliburton. So keep an eye on that one. Davion Mitchell is someone I would have some interest in there. And then Terrence Davis played 26 minutes off the bench last game. So if there's no Halliburton, he becomes another potential value play. On the Spurs, Murray at almost 10K, I'll pass. Still no Pirtle, so the combination of Thad Young and Eubanks will play the 5. I actually have a lean to Thad Young at 5'8". Should play 25-ish minutes, a guy that can stuff his stat sheet. And then the secondary options for the Spurs, I'm going to stay away from. Pacers and Denver, tough matchup here with the Pacers, but Denver's missing a few guys. Brogdon most likely back too, so there's no one that really stands out. Brogdon probably my favorite option, assuming there's no limitations. Sabonis, I'm going to pass that price on. Turner and LeVert, neither really stand out at their respective prices. I'm not touching the value. Moving on to Denver, a team you're going to want some exposure to tomorrow. So no Jokic, no Murray, and no Michael Porter Jr. So in a great matchup here, yeah, Denver looks great. Will Barton, really like him. He's going to be the number one on offense. Great matchup here. Aaron Gordon, going to get a massive usage bump. I think he plays mid-30s minutes. He looks really good. Monte Morris going to get a big usage bump. I like him a good amount. And they probably start JaMychal Green at the 5 against a big front court. Assuming he does start, he becomes a good value play. Jeff Green started last game. He's a low-usage guy, but he played 34 minutes firmly in play. And then some guys off the bench even look good. Dozier, Bones Highland at 3.3K. I think they dust off Bull. He might get some run. So if you want to go to him in a large field tournament, I don't hate that idea. So a lot to like here for Denver. Short-handed in a great matchup. Moving on to Portland and Phoenix. A tough matchup here. Lillard, McCollum don't really stand out. Nurkic not playing enough minutes for me. There's really not much here. Simons had a really bad first half. I think he had 0 fancy points. We'll see what he finishes with. On the Phoenix side, it's kind of the same thing. Paul and Booker almost 9 and 9.8K. I'm going to pass there. The wings are always secondary options for me. I do still have some interest in the bigs out 8 in Kaminsky and McGee. Maybe a small lean to McGee for the discount at 4.2. I played McGee 2 slates ago, injured, foul trouble. I played Kaminsky last slate, foul trouble. It's like whoever I play the bigs is going to get in foul trouble. So whoever I play, you should play the opposite if I do go to one. Cam Payne had a really good game off the bench last game, but his ownership probably jumps, and I'm probably going to pass. Minnesota and Golden State. So Karl-Anthony Towns at 10-7, I think is a viable spend up. Should be able to have his way against the small ball Golden State front court. D'Lo had a really good game, played 41 minutes and I went to overtime, so 36 in regulation. His minutes have fluctuated a bit, but if we're going to get mid-30s minutes from D'Angelo Russell, he is too cheap at 7-1. Now, he has a low floor, but a high ceiling. The revenge game narrative, I do think he makes for a good tournament play. Ant-Man at 8K feels priced about right. I think is a relatively safe option. And they started Pat Beverly last game. Assuming he starts again, I like him for value. A guy that can stuff the stat sheet. Probably going to use him a lot to defend Steph Curry. Moving on to Golden State. Steph Curry, the absolute massive game against the Hawks. 86 fancy points. I think that's the most so far this year of anyone's put up. Always in play for tournaments. Almost 12K though. Hard to go there in a cash game setting. Draymond, I think is a little bit too cheap. Probably plays 35-ish minutes in a competitive game. A guy that has triple-double upside. And I'll mention Jordan Poole, who has shot well recently. Playing a little more minutes too. I think he is a little bit too cheap. And finally, Miami and the Lakers. So a lot to keep an eye on here for Miami. Bam questionable. Hero questionable. Tucker, Martin, both questionable as well. So if Bam and Adebayo can't go, then Dwayne Dedmon becomes probably the best value in the slate. Phenomenal point per minute guy as long as he stays out of foul trouble. And then Butler and Lowry get a usage bump. Both will look pretty good. Again, we have to keep an eye on Hero. Tucker questionable. So it's really hard to say right now for Miami. But if all the questionable guys are out, you're probably going to want some Miami exposure in an up-tempo game against the Lakers. Dedmon will look great. Jimmy, Lowry, even Duncan probably becomes viable for value just because he'll probably have to play a lot more minutes. So monitor the stats there in Miami. And finally, the Lakers. Tough matchup here. Westbrook, AD, both over 11K. I'm going to pass there. Melo has been really, really good for the Lakers so far this year. He's somewhat reliant on the scoring, though, so that's the issue, and it's a tough matchup. And I'm probably not going to touch the value here for the Lakers in a 13-game slate. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for the video. So if you have been enjoying the content, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't upload videos and go live. I'll be doing a YouTube live stream tomorrow, so make sure to check that one out, guys. Thanks again. Have a great night, and I'll see you all tomorrow in the live stream.